All right, if you work in information security, you know the deal with standards, right? They're this double-edged sword. You absolutely need them, but man, they can be a real beast to manage. Well, get this. The 2022 update to ISO/IEC 27002 is here to change all that. We're going to unpack its new annexes, A and B, because they introduce what I think is a truly revolutionary way to see and manage your entire security control set. And yeah, this question really hits the nail on the head. For years, what have security standards been? Just these long, super dense lists of controls. I mean, sure, they're comprehensive, but trying to build a risk plan or get ready for an audit or even just find the controls relevant to one specific team, it feels like you're completely lost in this massive, overwhelming forest. So here's the solution, and it's pretty brilliant actually. Instead of just giving us an even longer list, the 2022 standard gives us a whole new way to look at it. The key concept here is attributes. Just think of them as tags or labels, like you'd use on a blog post or in your email. They let us slice and dice that entire list of controls into meaningful, actually manageable views. And that, right there, is the big shift we're going to unpack. Okay, so here's our plan. First, we'll talk about this new view on controls. Then we'll get into what these attributes actually are and see how to use them. After that, we'll look at creating your own custom attributes, how to map everything from the old 2013 standard, and we'll wrap up with what this more flexible framework really means for you. All right, let's dive into Section 1, a new view on controls. And this really is about a fundamental shift in how we think about this stuff. We're moving away from a static document you just read to a dynamic framework you can actually work with. It feels like the standard finally gets how overwhelming a static list can be. So Annex A comes in as this super powerful tool. It's designed to transform that long list into something more like a flexible database. You can now query it, sort it, and filter controls to fit your specific needs. It just brings so much needed clarity to the whole security program. So let's get into the mechanics of this. To really take advantage of this new system, we first have to understand its building blocks, which are the control attributes themselves. So what is an attribute really? Well, the official definition is a characteristic or feature of a control. But in plain English, it's just a tag. Seriously, if you've ever tagged a photo on social media or put a label on an email to keep things organized, you already get the concept. Every single control in the standard now has a set of these tags, and that lets us group them in some incredibly useful ways. Now, the standard gives us 5 example attribute sets to get us started. First, you've got control types, which basically tells you a control's purpose. Is it preventive, detective, or corrective? Simple enough. Then we have information security properties, which you'll recognize as the classic CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Third is cybersecurity concepts, which maps to frameworks you probably already know, like NIST, covering things like identify, protect, all the way to respond and recover. And finally, you have operational capabilities and security domains, which give you even more specific ways to group controls by what they do and where they fit strategically. Okay, that's the theory. Let's move on to the practice. Because look, knowing what attributes are is one thing, but seeing what they can do, that's where this gets really, really powerful. So in Annex A, we get what's called the master matrix. It's table A.1. I want you to think of this as the complete, totally unfiltered list of every single control matched up with all of its attributes. Yeah, it's dense and it's super comprehensive. But that's the point. It's the raw data that we can now shape to fit whatever we need. And this here gives you just a little taste of what that matrix looks like. So let's take a look at Control 5.1, Policies for Information Security. You can see right away it has a bunch of attributes. It's tagged as #preventive. It relates to all 3 InfoSec properties: confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and it falls under the #identify cybersecurity concept. And the key thing to remember is every single control has this rich set of metadata attached to it now. Okay, let's put this into a real-world scenario. Imagine you're an incident manager. Your boss just asked you to review and document all the controls that are specifically corrective in nature. The ones that help you respond and recover after something bad has already happened. You don't care about preventative controls for this task. So how do you find just the ones you need in that huge list? And boom, this is the power of attributes in action. We just apply a simple filter for the #corrective control type, and that massive, overwhelming matrix instantly shrinks down to this targeted, actionable list. Just like that, we have exactly what we were looking for: controls for incident response, evidence collection, and backup. No more spending hours manually searching and scrolling. It's done. Now that alone is a huge leap forward, right? But the standard doesn't even stop there. It actually encourages you to take this whole concept and make it your own by creating your very own organization-specific attributes. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This is a direct quote from the standard itself. It explicitly says that organizations can, and really should, create their own attributes. Those 5 examples they give us, they're just a starting point. This is a clear invitation to take the ISO framework and mold it to fit your unique business, your unique operations. And the possibilities here are, well, they're really powerful. Just think about it. You could create an implementation state attribute to track your progress. To do, in progress, done. Or what about an organizational area attribute to assign controls directly to teams like HR or IT? Imagine if you could tag controls with specific risk scenarios, like response to a ransomware attack, or tag them by the critical assets they protect. All of a sudden, this standard transforms into a dynamic, day-to-day tool for actually managing your program. Okay, now for the big question. And I know what a lot of you are probably thinking. This is great, but my entire security program is built around the 2013 version. Well, don't worry, they absolutely thought of that. And that is the entire purpose of Annex B. Think of Annex B as your personal Rosetta Stone for translating between the 2 versions. It gives you these super detailed mapping tables that are designed to make the transition as smooth as possible. So if your current risk register is all mapped to the 2013 controls, you can just use Annex B to update everything without having to tear it all down and start from scratch. Here's a perfect example. Take a control that literally everyone knows, information backup. In the 2013 standard, that was controlled 12.3.1. Well, Annex B shows us that it's the exact same control, just with a new number in the 2022 version, 8.13. Simple as that. The Annex provides this direct mapping for every single control, so you are never, ever left guessing. But listen, this update isn't just a reorganization. It's not just a fresh coat of paint. It's a true evolution. To deal with the modern threat landscape, the 2022 version introduces 11 brand new controls, things that simply didn't exist in the old version. And if you just take a quick look at this list, you can see how incredibly relevant these additions are. We're talking about dedicated controls for things like threat intelligence and information security for cloud services, stuff everyone is dealing with. The standard also adds controls for protecting data at a granular level, like data masking and data leakage prevention, plus practical things like web filtering. These are all designed to address the complex challenges that, let's be honest, pretty much every organization is facing right now. Okay, let's bring all this together and talk about the key takeaway. What's the bottom line? What does all this really mean for you and for your security program? Here it is. With Annex A and its attributes, ISO 27002 is no longer just a static checklist that you dust off once a year for an audit. It's a dynamic, queryable, and totally customizable framework. It's a tool you can actually integrate into spreadsheets or GRC tools or databases to create specific views for different audiences, one for your auditors, another for your system owners, a high-level one for executives. It just makes the standard more useful and more powerful than it has ever been before. And that leaves us with one final thought I want you to take with you. Thinking about your work, your organization, and your challenges. What's one custom attribute you could create that would immediately bring more clarity and efficiency to your security program? Would it be something to track implementation status? Or maybe one for mapping controls directly to your top business risks? The point is, the power is now in your hands to shape this standard to fit your world.